Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, after someone supposedly dropped the ball, the government moves to secure another deal with Pfizer, this time seeking the help of U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Senators slammed the mishandling of vaccine deals, which could have saved millions of lives, but Health Secretary Francisco Duque denies there is negligence and corruption in vaccine talks. And later, how is the government dealing with the continuous presence of China in the West Philippine Sea amid the coronavirus pandemic? Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin joins us live. Okay,
of Pfizer. And
Secretary Locsin, we have yet to start. Okay, let's start our interview with this setup first. Secretary, the government says that the United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo committed to help the Philippines in securing COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer. Last week, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin Jr. revealed that somebody dropped the ball in the Pfizer deal, which could have secured us 10 million doses of the vaccine by January 2021. The country has so far secured 2.6 million doses from British drug maker AstraZeneca through the help of the private sector. Now, let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin Jr. Secretary Locsin, good to have you. You said you want to start with some good news. Please go ahead.
Absolutely. Okay. Vaccine czar El Jefe, Carlito Galvez Jr., is going to start negotiations with American biotech company Moderna on or before Wednesday next week. Okay. The night before, U.S. Food and Drug Administration authorized Moderna's two-dose regimen for emergency use. I am glad, I guess this comes from Carlito Galvez, that Ambassador Romualdez himself is helping us with negotiations. Earlier this morning, around 5 a.m., he called me and said that Moderna is interested in giving an allocation to the Philippines. 30 million dosages of the Indian-made Novavax vaccines are assured, possibly with no cash advance. It will be available by July 2021. The term sheet might be signed before the year ends. The good thing, though, is that, remember, this is not a rumor, is that this is based on a press release made by Serum Institute of India, the giant manufacturer. And by the way, I thank India because when Mar Rojas and I pushed for the Cheaper Medicine Act, right, and the big pharma were threatening to cut us off, I said, go ahead, make our day, because we have the Indian manufacturers behind us. We won. Okay, SII produces Covavax, Novavax, AstraZeneca, AZ1222, and an anti-cancer drug that can also be used to contain COVID-19. And as I tweeted last night, it's okay if somebody drops the ball because Dave and I have many balls in the air. In fact, between us, we have we have enough balls between us.
Secretary Locsin. So let me start with this. You tweeted very recently, about 2 days ago, that you spoke to Secretary Pompeo and you asked him to help you and Ambassador Babe Romualdez get back. Let's start with that. A fraction of the 10 million vaccines from Pfizer. What kind of commitment did you get with regards first to this, what you call a fraction of the Pfizer vaccine?
The first time, you cannot say commitment. Pompeo is not the owner of Pfizer. Like the first time when we talked, within hours, Babe Romualdez called me. I said, I don't know what you said to Mike Pompeo, but I have Moderna and Pfizer knocking on my door saying, we're here. And then the rest, that ball was carried by Babe Romualdez. This time again, I told him, oh, by the way, that ball was dropped. Can I have another ball? Maybe a smaller ball. A fraction of it. And he said, let me get back to them. And Babe told me, shortly after, that's how fast they act in the United States. Shortly after, Moderna and Pfizer called him up and that's it. You'll have to interview Babe Romualdez for the details about that, because we work hand in glove and are quite known as the Cats and Jammer Kids.
So far, what we have is a commitment after your discussion with Secretary Mike
Right.
Pompeo. All of us, immediately after, what you're saying is Pfizer and Moderna spoke or had called Ambassador Babe Romualdez, and the details of that will have to come from him. Did I get that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Was there anything that you told Secretary Mike Pompeo with regards to, even just a number, millions of vaccines that could be provided possibly by Pfizer, because he seems to be the conduit there?
No, both times it's actually Mike Pompeo who initiated it and said, what is your president's concern? Because he really likes Rodrigo Duterte. They get along so well. They have the same approach to problems, because Mike Pompeo is an ex-soldier, combat officer. No? So I said, well, I'll tell you what's eating my president, and it's this. He was mayor of Davao City. That's just virtually his kingdom. And when he became president of the Philippines, he actually thinks that the whole Philippines is like a giant Davao, and everyone there is his constituent, and he cannot bear to lose any one of his people to COVID. And because of that, he said, I'm going to work on that immediately.
Okay.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's how we talk.
So I understand what you said a while ago, but what your tweet was, you asked help. You asked him to help you and Ambassador Babe get what you called a fraction from Pfizer.
The last time I talked, I said just a small amount. I mean, at least try to get back what we lost, which Pfizer sent to Singapore instead because we were slow. And he said, let me call. And you're going to need to talk to Babes, because he may have gotten actually much more than I thought I could.
And what's the estimate that you're looking at? Just a possible.
I don't know. You have to ask Babes, because I'm not here to guess. We'll get what we can, and also we'll get what we are prepared to receive.
Okay, so Secretary Locsin, this has to go through Ambassador Babe, as you mentioned a while ago. After that, who will Ambassador Babe speak to after his talks with Pfizer and Moderna? Is it going to be the Office of the President? Is it going to be the DOH? Is it going to be Secretary Galvez?
It's already very clear now. There's going to be only one guy, General Carlito Galvez. I like generals. I don't like civilians.
Okay, so this obviously all started, which I need to get more clarification from you, is this supposed 10 million vaccine from Pfizer. Secretary Locsin, help us understand the situation. You said somebody dropped the ball. Senator Ping Lacson eventually identified this person as Secretary Duque. I want to hear it from you. Was it Secretary Duque who dropped the ball?
Well, I don't know. What I know is that Babe complained to me. And then when they asked me who it was, I said, I don't know. But all I'm saying is drop the ball. I'm not interested in recriminations. I'm interested in results. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I know that the opposition is desperate to get back to power, having lost miserably into elections, and they just can't find any other way to get in because this man is so popular at 91% popularity. But
it's hard. I hope you don't mind, Secretary. It's hard to say that you don't know who dropped the ball. The ball phrase came from you.
Well, the powers are there, would be Duque, and then much later on, Galvez. And that's it. Mm-hmm. We can't keep blaming, because I'll tell you one thing. When this thing first happened and there was talk against Duque, guess who said, do not remove Duque? Me. This was during the PhilHealth crisis. Do you know why? Because everyone, especially the desperate opposition, wanted a sacrificial lamb. Well, I'm sorry, but no. Because if they had removed Duque on the PhilHealth problem, guess what would happen? The media, having a short attention span, because it's not easy to be a journalist, doesn't require any technical proficiency, would have dropped the issue. I said, no, don't touch him. Because remember, anything that happened in PhilHealth had to have happened because of the people, the career bureaucrats below him.
But
whether he's in connivance or not, the point is you'd remove Duque, and that's the end of the investigation, because the media has a very short attention span, having a very short brain.
Yeah. Secretary Locsin,
Oh.
you said something earlier that the opposition wanted Secretary Duque out. There were 14 senators who asked for the resignation of Secretary Duque after the investigation on PhilHealth. And a number of them, Secretary Locsin, are not members of the opposition.
Well, okay. Well, whatever it was, even if a number of them were pro-administration, when asked my opinion, I said no.
Okay.
That's the cheap way to proceed. The
Got
best way to proceed is to purge the entire PhilHealth, and that's exactly what the president did, putting in the ex-NBI director, who I greatly admire for his integrity.
Okay, so Secretary, it's clear, please correct me if I'm wrong, that the person who dropped the ball now, rather than, is Secretary Duque. You said, and
Yes.
then eventually
By
Secretary
now
Galvez.
it's already there. It's already out. Yeah.
Okay, so at least we get that straight from you also on the record, because that came from Senator Ping Lacson. So my next question is this. Since you said you all have many balls anyway, do you
right.
still have a problem?
Babe and I, we've got quite a few.
Do you still have a problem with Secretary Duque dropping the ball, or is that over and done with?
Well, no, that's over and done with. It's done because although General Carlito Galvez is now the sole procuring authority, he's going to be working with DOH. Remember that when we get vaccines, and even the Chinese are concerned about this, they want it to be government to government. Even if the private sector pays for it, it has to be government to government, because they have to keep track of who gets vaccinated with what. There is a threat that if we do this without government to government, then what will happen is you create loopholes in which fake drugs can come in. Now, these fake drugs, I am told, are not really fatal, in the sense that so far they have found that they contain dextrose. But the problem is this: if you take them, dextrose, you just get healthy. I mean, you get fatter, you have vitamins, but it doesn't protect you from COVID. So then you die, you get sick, and then guess what? You blame the manufacturer, but it wasn't theirs.
We
So
need
there
to
it is.
Secretary, need to take a very short break, but we'll continue our discussion on Facebook as we pause for a few commercials on television. The Source will be right back. Watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin Jr. So, Secretary, just one more question on Pfizer. This was supposed to be 10 million doses that was supposed to have been delivered by January 2021 through Clark. Correct, sir?
That's right. That's what I got from Babes and Fury.
And I guess plain and simple, Secretary Locsin, sayang.
Well, what can you do? It happens. But the thing is, unless you just move on, and as I said, Babes and I, you can trust us to have many balls between us.
Okay. So, but on a last question on that, that 10 million was with certainty sana, Secretary Locsin, that 10 million was a commitment sana. That was a possible commitment of 10 million doses had the negotiations prospered at the right time.
I don't know. That's all I did. I'm just conveying what Babes told me, because Babes is the one on the ground working on it.
All right,
If
Secretary.
we're looking for for Duque, I'm so happy that you're on his side. That's great, because I am also on his side. Because when they wanted his head, I stood by him.
Oh, no, I'm not on anyone's side, sir. I'm trying to clarify.
There's nothing wrong with that. He's a good man.
No, Secretary.
He may not be
Okay,
great in basketball, but he's a good man.
Secretary, so let's talk about the good news, because also, as you mentioned a while ago at the start of our interview, you talked about Moderna, because there are so many vaccines and it can be a little bit confusing also. So talk to us about Moderna now.
Well, that's just the news I got. That Moderna has made an offer to Babe, and Babe has conveyed it to the sole procuring authority, which is Carlito Galvez. We can talk about the other, there are other issues coming up invented by a desperate opposition about the other vaccines.
So
Why don't you bring it up, that one?
go. No,
I have
let's.
two answers to that.
Yeah, Secretary, let's just finish that issue on Moderna. So, Ambassador Baber Romualdez talking to Moderna. who else? You mentioned another vaccine, sir. Is it Novavax, sir?
Yes, that's right. Novavax was announced by 30 million doses of the Indian-made Novavax vaccine, apparently announced by General Galvez.
Okay. So we could possibly have Pfizer, Moderna, Novavax, and from the private sector, we have, I believe it's AstraZeneca. Right.
Yes.
Okay. Other vaccines in the offing, Secretary.
Well, I know we got a very good promise from Russia for the Sputnik vaccine,
Right.
and that's a special relationship. I myself have a special relationship with Russia. And then the President Xi Jinping, I was there when he also promised to make it available. Now I'm going to tell you a story about that.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so the promise is there, and then, well, basically, as you know, and as you hear, okay, nobody can say if it's true, but that there is already the Sinopharm vaccine in the country. They say that Chinatown has quite a few of it. I got a complaint from the Chinese. He said, "What the hell is going on here?" He says, I don't know what your private sector is doing, but they're bringing in this vaccine, fine. They're protecting themselves, fine. But the problem is they don't stop talking. So what's happening now? There is now a rumor that if you go to Chinatown, you can get a vaccine. Okay, possibly Sinopharm. The thing with that is, he said, we haven't delivered anything officially. Everything has to be, the Chinese said, government to government. So therefore, when I brought this up in the cabinet, I said they're really upset because when you spread a rumor like that, it creates a temptation of the importers of fake vaccines to bring it into the country and say, "Oh, pumunta kayo sa Binondo. Oh, meron doon." Okay. Now, if you take that, they say, I was talking to someone who got it, and he said, well, he also knows about it. He's a journalist, and he said, well, if it's fake, it's dextrose. I know, but what is bad is this. Sure, dextrose doesn't hurt you, but you go around town thinking you have a vaccine in your vein, but you don't. You get sick, and who do you blame? You blame the Chinese, which is unfair. They said that should never come out until the official date when the shipment of Chinese vaccines have arrived. And Galvez says, as of this day, we start deploying this. Okay, and that's important. And then of course some people were saying, well, then we go after the fake manufacturers. I said, no. Why are you going to waste your time doing that? What we do is announce to the public. The procuring and only drug czar says, as of this date, Moderna, Pfizer, Sinopharm, different dates are going to be deployed.
Yeah.
Anyone who takes it outside the official channels, fine. You're okay. You're lucky. You have rich friends. Good. But the problem is this. You get sick. You don't have a stamp that you took it from the DOH. And that's why you
blame anyone.
The DOH has to certify you took the official vaccine. And for that, maybe the government will help you.
All right.
But anything else that's not there, that's not certified as having been deployed by the Department of Health, I said, I'm not going to don't go after anybody.
You're on your own.
You just tell the public you're grown up.
Yeah.
You heard already. It is on this date. And if you insist on still getting it from your best friend, well, too bad.
Okay. Secretary Locsin, again, we need to take a short break on television. We'll still be live on Facebook. The Source will be right back. We're talking about a number of vaccines. Ambassador Babe Romualdez at the forefront, talking to a number of manufacturers on this. Secretary Locsin, before we end the interview, just wanted to make sure, what do you know with regards to possibly Pfizer or Moderna having the vaccine brought to the country as early as when? When is the earliest possible time that any vaccine from Moderna only and Pfizer may arrive in the Philippines?
I'm sorry, I knew that because I just talked to Babes, a day ago, and I'm not sure. I know he mentioned July. Okay, let's just fix it on July because it might come in earlier.
Better to say that and then come earlier than have an earlier date and it come later.
The opposition again will be desperate again to try to come to power without the benefit of an election.
Secretary Locsin agreed to have, extend another 5 minutes on Facebook Live, on television. I'd like to thank him for joining us on The Source. Maraming salamat po sa inyo, Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin.
Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.